Sergey, in 2008, Victory Day, 63 years ago, is it for Russia or is it for the Soviet Union? Or you can't separate the two? The younger generation thinks it's more of a Russian victory? I mean, these things change through time.
I'd say it will be very difficult to make this separation because this is a sacred holiday to the Russians.
Sacred holiday.
It is. And as I told you that in every family there was a loss, and actually these things are discussed on a family level, and naturally the youngsters are joining these conversations. And this is these stories and memories
out of patriotism also.
Let's talk about simple human things like a conversation about the killed father or grandfather. My grandfather was killed in action in 1944. He was a gunner in a self-propelled gun mount, and in 1944 he died. So I heard these stories just from my childhood. The same happens with the younger generation. Besides, in the schools, there is a program, a history, and these landmarks are being explained to the youngsters. And after this parade is over, you will see so many young people wearing these victory ribbons, which is also to commemorate the victory.
It's very interesting, Kevin. I mean, we're talking about how Russians look at this event today and young people, but it's very controversial in the Baltic republics in Eastern Europe. This is called a victory over fascism, but a lot of people in the Baltic republics, Eastern Europe, say they were reoccupied by the Soviet Union. It's very prickly. This is a very prickly history when you look at the bigger picture. And this has caused a lot of political friction as well. Estonia, a very good example right there. There's no one interpretation of this event, though Russians rightfully believe that we all have to honor the dead. And they didn't go to occupy, they went to liberate the scourge called Nazism.
Right, now we're going to carry on our conversation. If you just joined us, just to remind you that you're watching the 2008 Victory Day Parade in Moscow's Red Square. Great day for us, you can see President Medvedev, Prime Minister Vladimir Putin there. Here in the studio, Kevin Owen with you to take you through and give a bit of comment about what we're seeing. But more notably, we've got Peter Lavelle and Sergey Lebedev, military consultant. Coming back to us in a second, let's now listen in, get a bit of flavour and a bit of sound of what you're seeing. Enjoy.
Командир полка партии полковник Алексей Золотов. Свыше 1600 военнослужащих полка награждены орденами и медалями. Двое удостоены высокого звания Героя Российской Федерации. С 1976 года полк является неизменным участником парадов на Красной площади. Отдельная орденов Ленина и Октябрьской революции краснознаменная дивизия оперативного назначения имени Дзержинского внутренних войск МВД России. Командует парадным расчетом командир дивизии генерал-майор Сергей Меликов. Дивизия – неизменный участник всех парадов на Красной площади. В 45-м именно военнослужащим дивизии было доверено право бросить знамена и штандарты поверженных фашистских армий под ножью мавзолея. В рядах дивизии 12 героев Советского Союза и 13 героев России. На Красной площади морская пехота.
Some 8,000 soldiers, servicemen and servicewomen parading here, dressed in brand new uniforms, and indeed, as we mentioned just now, uniforms from the Great Patriotic War. Sergei, how many regiments, different divisions are we looking at here? It's Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine?
Well, actually, that's the great honor to every branch of the armed forces to participate in this parade. And here you see the Marines are just marching on the Red Square. And this is their flag, which is coming from pre-revolutionary times. And actually, the Marines, they always proved to be the strongest military force. In all different difficult situations, they were participating to engage the enemy. And this is the uniform, you know, you're using now. They're using now.
Sergei, are these real troops, or are they just parading around? I mean, are they the parade brigade, or do they actually are trained to fight?
Actually, some are represented by the military academies, and some are represented by combat units. And they compete to have the honor to march on the Red Square on this day. It's a great honor to those. I participated in the parade myself when I was a lieutenant.
What does it feel like to be there in Red Square? I, growing up as a child, remember these pictures, iconic pictures, aren't they, from Red Square, always broadcast around the world. Look huge. I can remember so many years, you just saw the light of it. It really was, wasn't it? What does it feel like, though, to be there? Well, we were watching you.
Well, actually, to be on the Red Square at any time is a kind of a special event. And to participate in the parade, it is an absolutely indescribable feeling, I'd say. And it's a great honor. Really. But when I was talking about my parade, that was not in Moscow, it was in the Odessa city.
We mustn't forget, of course, today, we mustn't just base ourselves here in Moscow, although that's what we're seeing at the moment, of course. But these events have been going on in Ekaterinburg. We've seen them across Russia as the time zones have gone on, 11 time zones in Russia, of course. How many parades, how many cities do a similar thing, always on a smaller scale?
Actually, all major cities where there are certain military garrisons, they do have this type of event. And when I was talking about the parade in Odessa many years ago, you know, we were training every other day, and it lasted for about 2 months of this training, and in the end of every week, those little steel plates on our high shoes that were completely worn out, and you have to change them.
Well, they trained you well then. Would you say this is the most important holiday in Russia now?
I would say yes.
We're seeing on the bottom of the screens there, where it says Victory Day, we see the flag, very similar to the ribbon that we're all wearing today. Now, over the last week or two, we've seen kiosks, stalls, little tents, all around Moscow, with people coming up to those tents, asking for these ribbons, tying them to the aerials on their cars, wearing them.
We're in the RIA building. That's where Russia Today's house, and there's a little stall in front of the building, and there are people stopping their cars to get them, to multiple ones. And this is a tradition of only a few years. It's just really extraordinary, and it's just really a showing of great patriotism. And I'm really surprised how many young people want them. That's what I think it's really interesting.
What is the symbolism of this orange black flag?
Well, actually, these colors are coming from pre-revolutionary decoration, which was given to the soldiers who demonstrated their braveness on the battlefield. So, and that tradition is passing from the pre-revolutionary Russia to our times today.
This is one of the things that I keep going back to. It. Maybe I'm just turning into a broken record. I mean, I was trained as an academic historian, but I see all of these different traditions and symbols being mixed together. Pre-revolution, then we have the Soviet period, now we have now. They're all commingling here, and that's why I'm always interested in what people understand and see when they see the ribbon, but when they see the hammer and sickle on the banner of this parade, because that does have negative consequences for people outside of the Soviet Union. That reminds people of the Cold War, and you know, we see all this commingling here, and I think it's really interesting how these traditions are working their way out.
So when this ribbon wearing, this symbolism start, how many years ago?
Well, it may be as far as, let's say, 400 years ago.
But it came back in vogue only about 3 or 4 years ago when people were actually wearing them around. I remember it very distinctly because I was really surprised. Oh, we're going to